Sometimes people ask what I do at my studio. The neighbors wonder why the lights are on all night. This is a virtual studio visit. Welcome. I'd get you a beer if I could. Maybe you better get yourself one. At a point when I was either going to get a space in Brooklyn or live in the woods, I acquired this building. Or perhaps it found me. The original barn was built in the 1830s. I hired some local guys, we numbered every piece, took it apart, moved and reassembled it on a plot of land above a wetlands with a Catskill view. It has become a laboratory and a safe house, with great acoustics. I divide my time between the SETI Institute in Silicon Valley, New York City, and several remote locations. This is home base. I'm interested in things that exist at the frontier and at the geographic and cultural margins, in ideas that speak to worlds before or after humans, things much bigger and much smaller than us. Can our art ever venture beyond the anthropocentric? Can we? I imagine a permeable, expanding membrane between what is and isn't known, and I'm intrigued by the idea of things that are ineffable, things that can never be known. The light tables you see are where I make the carbon negatives, which are the basis for a hybrid imaging process that involves some mad science and happy accidents. I use syringes instead of paintbrushes. Sometimes there's dry ice, and sometimes electrical current, occasionally heavy metals. In a nutshell, these are high-resolution drawings that are scanned and processed in such a way to mimic the language of scientific photography, the photography of empirical visual truth. Carbon images read like fossils, incredibly detailed, vast yet ambiguous in scale. They appear as traces of worlds that existed briefly, which are now gone. Without clear reference to written languages or known symbols, they might be geographies of another consciousness. They become whatever you think they are, like Rorschach inkblot tests, both clue and mirror. At least that's how I interpret them. From micro to astro, these are super-resolved illusions. I turn them into giant prints, videos, environments, and photographs in steel books that are designed to last a very long time. I'm turned on by the moments when we say, "What the hell is that? Is it dangerous?" For me, the real-world analog to that experience almost always happens in nature. Spotting a spectacularly camouflaged viper on the forest floor, or night diving along a healthy wall of soft coral. I'm interested in things I can study and go deeper with, like music that one can listen to many times over. It's an enormous challenge to create work that stimulates new synaptic responses. That's my goal. I'm interested in pattern recognition, biomimicry, and the transition from simple life forms to complex ones, from inert matter to artificial intelligence. Like so much of art, a simple object can represent a great deal, assuming one knows the code or believes in the chain of thoughts that support it. We're swimming in all these ideas, so many rectangles with pictures in them, all vying for our attention, trying to imprint. What I wonder is what information is right in front of us that we aren't yet aware of. Are the answers to our greatest challenges right in front of our noses, like mathematical models, waiting to be discovered? I suspect so, because where else could they possibly be? As an artist, my work embodies questions. I wonder if whatever drives evolution is also encouraging us to go spelunking in the existential realm. Sounds like a trailer for Alice in Wonderland, or some form of cosmic initiation. But this meta-monkey clearly needs to explore. I seem compelled to go down the rabbit holes myself. In the future, perhaps we'll send drones, hemoglobin-sized psychoanalysts. I've long thought about the nature of mind, and was sorting through some of the artifacts I've collected on various trips, things I kept to symbolize events and places, memory triggers, objects I picked up and put in my pocket. In some cases, they represent an entire story from some experience on the road, much the way photographs do. These are things from India, Indonesia, Japan, Greenland, Nicaragua, NASA Ames. They're things that connect to memories, which are of course plastic and amorphous, I'm fascinated by the way these complex emotional caches, with all their information, visual, oral, olfactory, taste, touch, are moving simultaneously, parallel, accessible. They exist discreetly, and yet are connected in a mind that I can't put my finger on. I imagine one day there will be some superdimensional mathematical model to explain all this. But in the meantime, even representing myself here to you is strange. I'm suggesting a fixed identity as much as this fixed piece of architecture sits in a fixed geography. But that's not how I interpret myself or the world. This is just one facet of my current fluid reality, which is in itself barely tethered and subject to immediate change. Think cuttlefish, chameleon, self-aware software. And thanks for bearing with me. So I'm navigating through my real, visceral past, which is a composite of so many journeys, all layered, a virtual stratigraphy that is then folded and metamorphosed over and over again. But I still think I know what is real and what isn't. Photographs offer proof, in case the ego doesn't trust itself. I can drill my way through this cranial geology, to a lucid dream on opium in a remote tribal village in the Golden Triangle in 1984. And back again. 1988 broke out of a makeshift jail in China after getting busted for photographing a defaced monastery. I got arrested a few times that year. 1997, mugged in Havana after photographing Fidel. I can still smell the bus exhaust and feel the grit in the wounds. 2011, hyper-aware amongst bristlecone pines. Visit SpaceX, then transit to the prow of a boat off the coast of British Columbia, where millions of small jellyfish pulse subsurface in the sheer darkness of night. Millions of stars occupy that same surface reflected. I piss overboard, which creates a trail of microbioluminescence. 2009, enter a circular theater in Barcelona where I'm playing with 50 other guitarists in 2 concentric circles under the direction of Robert Fripp. The music literally spins. Then my wife is on the rainforest floor in Costa Rica collaborating with ants, and I'm in all those places, all at once. Time is compressed, as if by magic, as if it's all a lucid dream. The spelunker goes back to 1994 in a remote Maharaja's palace in Orissa, a scene of abandon and debauchery. Fast forward 2013. Charlie, Charles, and Lucy are in a yurt in Idaho in the dead of winter after an epic adventure on snowshoes, clear as night. The navigator travels further back to the Stone Age in Indonesia, where while on a monkey hunt a pregnant scorpion stings me. I survive barely, and then further back veering to a helicopter crash in the Arctic age 18, a very close call that partially fueled this incessant run. Fast forward 2010, camping at the Hack Creek Radio Observatory where SETI searches for signals from alien civilizations. You get the idea, and that's just the tip of the iceberg. So many packets of information, a pinball archive with no fixed address. Amazing, absolutely amazing, like weather, but sharp and in focus, which isn't really like weather. Is this what it's like to see our life pass before our eyes? Is death imminent? The deeper I go, the more caverns there are. So many adventures, all metabolized into memories, all flowing into each other. I wish you could put on a headset and see all this as I do. The more I warp time amongst these thoughts, the more I regard myself as a node in a multidimensional network. A node that is itself in motion and morphing, part of an evolving, mutating equation. I see this equation clearly, but couldn't begin to put it on a chalkboard. Such a vast collective experiment, intersecting with your own, as you listen right now on this virtual studio visit. Is the universe itself thinking? And are our minds simply mimicking its structure, like tiny pieces in an infinitely expanding fractal puzzle? Will dark matter, once understood, prove to be a treasure trove of answers? Will quantum mechanics save the day? I'm thinking about access, signposts, treasure maps. Have you ever seen an Inukshuk? They're the stone cairns the Inuits build to signify migration routes. Often they take on human forms, sentinels in a vast barren landscape. I like to think of my art this way, trail markers to or from a journey. They're keys to the ideas I'm processing at the time I'm constructing them. The capsules are a pair of interactive sculptures designed to make the unseen visible. I want to actually look into geologic time, to see through the rare fluorescent mineral samples that I collected in Greenland. I studied to be an exploration geologist. That early fascination is now showing up again, years later. The idea is transcending apparent space-time limitations. I salvaged 2 French-made chromatography columns, equipment originally used in the biotech industry, and retrofitted them with specific wavelength UV lights, proximity sensors, custom circuits, and detectors that recognize changes in the dynamics of the audio coming from the pressurized chamber. LED video panels are suspended above each capsule and are connected to the mineral sensor boards through the ducting, which also allows the capsules to breathe. Bioluminescent oceanic creatures and tectonic events appear on the screens intermittently, as if coming from deep within the rocks. Last summer I witnessed a marine upwelling of alien-like comb jellies, the ancient species that just initiated a radical redrawing of the Tree of Life. Things are lining up. The deep past is closer than we think. Both capsules recognize the viewer's presence and acknowledge it. The sounds coming from within the rocks are a whole other story. Much of the audio I work with is collected in the field, using parabolic microphones, contact mics, and hydrophones. I process those recordings on the road, on my laptop, and here at the studio. I also record and manipulate a diverse array of instruments and sound sources. Several times I've been experimenting with amplifiers and feedback when the local coyote pack has come right close to the studio and howled. Sometimes birds fly inside. Now it's winter, that dark introspective season. The land outside is asleep. I try to encourage discoveries in my compositions and look to the process to teach me. I create random relationships between many linear soundtracks, hoping that their sum became something greater than the parts, something unexpected. This approach encourages accidents and accepts there will be a lot of noise and dissonance. Periodically, the harmonics line up and things become briefly beautiful, mysterious, even seductive. When sounds are working this way, I literally feel my cerebral cortex tingling, the same as when insect polyrhythms coalesce in the rainforest. I play a 6-string electric cello, a half-inch reel-to-reel deck, the Tempest and the Continuum. There are amplifiers, compressors, the one-of-a-kind Arc by Snazzy Effects, Borderlands on the iPad, a lute from Sumatra and one from Tibet, some circuit band stuff, tons of software. I'm thinking about virtual reality, artificial and machine intelligence, and prosthetic intelligence, which is where the Rocket Brain sculpture comes from. It's constructed from a missile guidance system I found on eBay. Originally built for NASA in the 1970s, it has incredible hand-assembled circuitry at a scale we can understand with the naked eye. To bring the gyroscope back to life, I added a motor with motion sensors and laser timers, a video tablet, a Raspberry Pi with random behavior built into the programming. A bundle of fiber optic cables mimics the bioluminescent signaling I've seen in squid and other sea creatures, plus the custom-made Pyrex cone. Sometimes I'll be alone with the Rocket Brain at night, and it suddenly behaves oddly. It appears to be dreaming. And why not? Labrador retrievers dream. So dreaming doesn't require human intelligence, but it is a curious phenomenon. I wonder where we are headed as a species, as we merge with our technologies, as our ecosystems transition or collapse, as we consider heading to other solar systems. Ultraman is projected in the background. Frank Zappa drops by sometimes, on vinyl, pointing out the finite absurdity to all this. Or is it infinite absurdity? Uh-oh. Sounds like gibberish to me. But seriously, Thanks for the visit. Please come back again.